Now, there isn't another proposal that's going on as well, which is proposal number 2, which is the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act of 2020. So because we've all been kind of worried about how we're going to pay rent, right? So even with this $1,200 stimulus check that we have, most people are still worried about, hey, if I got to continue to stay home for a while, how the heck am I going to pay for rent? I mean, that maybe covers for 1 month, but I still got utility bills, I got my rent, I've got my other car notes, I have all these things going on. That's not enough money for me. And so they're proposing what's also called the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act 2020. And in that, there's some other extensions to certain things that have been trying to be pushed already. So in a lot of states, they've been trying to do kind of a rent push where, you don't have to pay your rent if you're not able to, but you do have to pay it back. And while I believe it's a good intention of hey, if I'm not able to pay rent, I give myself a 3-month kind of forgiveness. The problem though is that you still have to pay it back. And a lot of states, you have to pay it back almost immediately. And if I just sit and think about it for a little bit, it really doesn't make any sense, right? Like if I can't pay rent for 2 or 3 months because I've lost my job, because the economy's been shut down, and then I finally am able to get a job when the economy opens back up, how am I going to be able to immediately afford to pay all those previous 3 months rent when I'm probably already behind on a lot of other bills because I had a lack of income, right? So it just doesn't make any sense. Luckily, some states, I know like here in California, they've kind of said that, you can go so many months without paying rent and you have about 12 months to pay that money back. But this second proposal states that renters would not have to pay rent for 1 year for their primary residence. And in addition to that, there would be no impact on their credit score and it would not be debt owed. So unlike right now where you're allowed to not pay rent and not get penalized per se of you can't get evicted, you do have to pay that rent back in a very short amount of time, which in my opinion is very unlikely for most people. But this would actually get rid of all that and say, look, you don't even owe that money back. You don't pay for a year and you don't have to pay any of that back. You're good. It's a clean slate. It also says for homeowners that you don't have to pay your mortgage for a year without an effect on your credit score and without any debt owed. So you're not going to owe the bank all the back mortgage that you, or whoever your loan provider is, the back mortgage of what you didn't pay. Now for landlords, you would be reimbursed for 1 year for your renter not paying, because obviously they would get covered by the renter's thing and not having to pay for a year and not get penalized. So if you were a landlord who owns property, the government would reimburse you for the entire year of non-payment. Although there are a lot of clauses and stipulations in those things about what you can do with that property, the ability to increase rent or not increase rent, and a lot of red tape and things that you would need to really look out for the fine print. So make sure if you are a landlord, you kind of check that out if this thing does get passed, so you kind of have a better idea of what it is. But anyways, these are 2 proposals. There's a lot of other proposals going on as well that are really interesting. There's a third proposal talking about maybe we just give everybody, $2,000 on a debit card up front, and then an additional $1,000 a month after that, and other types of proposals going on. But look, we may be getting $2,000 a month, and we could essentially maybe have our rent or our mortgage completely wiped clean for the next year. So I want to hear your thoughts on that, what you think about it, pros and cons. What do you think? Is it something that you could use? Do you think it's unnecessary, or should we have more regulation? So maybe these are good ideas, but maybe we probably need to tightly regulate who and what we give this to, because look, like I said, every single one of these things, the money has to come from somewhere. So there's going to be some effect on the economy. So something we have to really kind of think about as we move forward. Of course, we want to make sure the safety and the health of everybody as much as we can. And so if people absolutely need help, I think, in my personal opinion, we need to find a way of helping people who desperately need it. But I do think we need to be careful about people who maybe don't need the money, who can still benefit. Because let's think about it. If you don't have to pay your mortgage for a year and you're living in a $20 million mega mansion, and you're sitting on mega multi-million dollars in your bank, and do you really need to have your rent forgoed? That person benefits way more than the person who is living in a little apartment, who doesn't make very much money, and they're really struggling. So I think there's going to have to be some sort of distinction on how do we determine who truly needs this or not. And that's going to be my best guess. I don't think we're going to get $2,000 a month. I think it's going to be a lot less than that if we do get anything. I think there are going to be some strict regulations on that. But comment below what your thoughts are. I want to hear from it, hear from you. Make sure you smash that like button if this kind of gave you some insights, some thoughts, if it interested you. Also hit the subscribe button as well. And I wish you safety, health, prosperity, happiness, and abundance on your journey.